Alright, what the heck happened to that Tom Thumb that's long been rumored for Forney? I do have the answer, but I like to explain how things work when it comes to city matters, so allow me to give a little backstory. I honestly can't remember the exact date that the city was notified about Tom Thumb's interest in coming to Forney. So I did a little search on past city council agendas, and I searched several meetings past September of 2020 and finally got bored clicking and scrolling through agendas, but the earliest agenda I found, with what is known as Project King Kong on it, was way back on September 15th of 2020. On top of that, there were several months of talks between the city and Tom Thumb before it even hit an agenda as a project. So this has been in the works for around 2 years now. Tom Thumb warned us from the get-go though. They don't hurry their projects, and it would likely take at least a year and a half to get things in motion. Well, they weren't exaggerating. Throw in a pandemic and that adds a little time to things. The grocery store market is mega competitive and margins are very slim in the grocery game, so these types of businesses are very slow and strategic with their growth, especially when you have the behemoth known as HEB slowly planting landmines around you, just waiting to take over the world, as well as Goliath Amazon getting into the grocery game. That said, once market studies were completed, land contracted, and mutual interest from the city received, Tom Thumb moved on to the design phase. Preliminary plans were submitted to the city of Forney for staff and city council to look over. Those plans included a very similar development as the one you see in Heath. In fact, the store was identical in size and similar in design. Surrounding it were additional retail and pad sites for restaurants, but it did not include a gas station. As most of you know, the site in Heath includes the very popular Manny's Uptown Tex-Mex restaurant, Johnny's Italian Bistro, small retail, and medical offices. However, due to the stigma surrounding apartments, they were in a bit of a predicament. You see, the land they felt was the ideal spot at the corner of 548 and College could only be purchased as a whole and not sectioned out, which totaled 32.4 acres. The problem is their development only needs 20 acres, and that leaves 12 acres to fill. It turns out one of the executives behind the Tom Thumb development had a connection with Greystar, who is one of the larger rental property management companies in the nation. Tom Thumb partnered with them and proposed adding an approximate 300-unit apartment complex, along with some surrounding townhomes on that remaining 12 acres. It's the perfect solution for them, as it adds customers on site who don't even need to leave the property to grocery shop. That leads to the predicament, though, the apartment stigma. There's that population in Forney that believes apartment dwellers and renters are nothing but criminals and they all have 12 kids each. Anytime a new apartment complex is proposed, you have 40 people on social media complain. How is an elected official supposed to approve such a thing? Meanwhile, Greystar is one of the premier rental property management companies and their properties are top-notch. What was proposed was top-notch as well. Nonetheless, and as a result, the idea of the city purchasing the land themselves was floated. That's a great idea if you're a politician who's worried about votes, but it's also a bad use of taxpayer money and money that could be used to address needs in the city, not to mention it cancels out any future property taxes that would be generated as long as the city owns it. Well, let's fast forward a bit. As we know, in the middle of all of this, a pandemic hit. To go along with the delays caused by that, construction costs also increased significantly. So, Tom Thumb went back to the drawing board, literally, because their store design then proved to be too costly. Several months went by while they reevaluated the market and came up with an updated design. In the meantime, Forney went through another election cycle and new members were elected to city council. Several more months passed by and here we are today. Word on the hard streets of Forney is that the new city council has decided to in fact purchase the 12 acres or so of land for approximately $2.7 million. It's certainly great news if Tom Thumb will in fact move forward and bring their product to the south side of Forney. Not only do we need another grocery store in Forney, but bringing one to the south side of 80 will also help redistribute traffic in town, especially with the addition of retail and restaurants. However, the average appraised value on the 4 newest 300-unit apartment complexes in town is approximately $37 million. Add townhomes to that, and you're looking at $40 million in appraised value, which would provide over $900,000 in property taxes each year. Instead, the city will enjoy millions of dollars in losses. That $2.4 million would go a long way towards infrastructure needed in Forney. But hey, smart growth, right? Anyway, this could be good news for Southside residents and Forney as a whole. Hopefully Tom Thumb does in fact move forward. If they do, an optimistic timeline for their opening would be sometime in 2023. Cross your fingers, Forney. For more videos like these, subscribe to the State of Forney on YouTube and like and share the State of Forney on Facebook.